There's no wrong way to be an entrepreneur, and that's the dirty little secret the business gurus don't want you to know. They want you to do things their way, but their way may not be your way. The key to success is finding the strategies that work best for you. Welcome to the 6 Ways with Jerry Potter.
On today's show, we're sharing 6 ways to stay ethical and still be wildly profitable. Welcome to episode number 10 of the 6 Ways. Every week, we bring on a smart, innovative guest that is thriving in their field of expertise to share their best tips with the rest of us so we can all achieve our entrepreneurial goals. I truly believe we all do better when we all do better. And so that's the idea behind this. My name is Jerry Potter, founder of 5 Minute Social Media and the Social Media Leads Lab. And my guest today is Anna Saucier, who I am honored to know. Anna coaches online business owners to serve without it feeling contrived, stressful, hustled, and pushy while still being wildly profitable. She and I also share our love for showing our kids the world and all the different kinds of people in it. Anna, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jerry. I'm excited
I'm
to be
glad
here.
that I'm glad we've decided to talk about this topic because I think it's a good one. And sometimes we hear about things, and especially from what we'll call the quote business gurus, like, oh, you have to do this, or you have to do that, and sometimes it feels icky and gross. And I want to start though just talking a little bit about money in general because you do use the phrase wildly profitable while still, not feeling, you don't use icky and gross, but you use wildly profitable. When you work with your clients on this kind of stuff, do some of them struggle with just the idea of making money and general guilt around that?
Oh, absolutely. And I really, if we can talk about money, we can talk about the word profitable a little bit more too, because I think sometimes we equate those two together. But I also see profitable as in terms of time and energy profit as well.
Mm.
And so as I'm looking at the desire for someone to be profitable, we need to understand, what does that actually mean for you? And I think that's where in online business, we can get someone into some of these sticky situations because we assume that everybody wants the same thing. And, and then we lose that insight of, well, not everyone wants to be wildly profitable in terms of money, but we want to be wildly profitable in terms of time and energy and our ability to help people.
I love that you said that because that's very much where I am with my business, where it's like, yeah, I want to make money and I'm okay with that. But at the same time, I want to not work 80 hours a week and I don't want to work when my kids are home from school and different things like that. And so when you work with your clients, is that one of the first things you do to define what profitable means?
Yeah, and what their desires are, what is meaning, what their values are, what are the meaningful outcomes for you here?
And obviously, when we think about making money, if we want the other things that are profitable, like saved energy and saved time, the money helps, right? It helps
Absolutely,
us
and
work
and
less.
it's necessary. I mean, if you're running a business, you need money, and like you asked about, is that a struggle? Whether that's mindset or energetic or an emotion struggle when it comes to money, we do need to not ignore money because that is what supports the resources, the humans, and in everything, particularly the humans and the resources that we have in order to support the business and to support the deliverables and the programs that we offer, the way that we help people.
W- One of the things I've seen you say is talking about how business and life are inseparable, especially when you're doing what you love, right? You're passionate about it. You're trying to make an impact on the world. And so how do you approach that when, the majority of the planet is mostly like, oh, you have to have work-life balance and separation and things like that?
Hmm. Yes, I love this question, and it is such a it's such a shift for some people who have come into online business with starting with a passion. And most people do. They say, I want to help people with XYZ. And they then hear or see, oh, a business is the best way for me to do that.
Mhm.
And then they come into learning about online business and learning the tactics and learning the strategies and being in some of these programs that teach them how to create a business. And a lot of times we end up having this, then a disconnection happens from the life force that you got into this in the first place, the thing that drives you to help people. We end up with this disconnection because of the ickiness that you talk about feeling, right? And because of the gurus telling you to do it is in this exact same way. So we end up disconnected from that life then. So then we have the life importance and the life values over here. My life values are my family and supporting people and having real meaningful conversations, for example, those sorts of things. And then over here in business, my values have to be consistency and money and some of these other things, or we start to learn that those things have to be important to me. And so it just exacerbates this kind of separation. And so when I talk about these things necessarily being integrated, we it it helps when we intentionally bring them back together and start looking at them at the same time. We start questioning, well, do these business values actually align with my personal values? And pulling that back together, we are then able to more fully bring that passion back, and the fullness of what I came here to do in the first place, right?
Yeah. I love the way that you put that because most of us, obviously, our business is there to support our life and our lifestyle design and all of that. And they are integrated. And my family just recently got back from a month long trip, which I'm so grateful that we're able to do because I can work from anywhere. But I chose to work while we were, technically on vacation. But it was well worth it because of what we got to do. And I I've never heard it put the way you put it, but I guess several years ago, I kind of said goodbye to, trying to separate work and life all the time. And if you have something you love too, it's hard to stop thinking about it, right? I don't know about you, but I wake up with dreams about business all the time.
Right, absolutely. And we don't have to make that a wrong thing. I think when it starts to become um, when it's so disconnected from the values of the life, that's when that's when it starts, I think, to be harmful, that we're thinking about it all the time. But if I'm constantly thinking about, helping people to grow their business in a way that's aligned for them, it's okay that I'm thinking about it all the time, because it's not disconnected in terms of values from serving my family all the time, being connected with my kids and with my husband. It all kind of it fits.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay. So today, 6 ways to stay ethical and still be wildly profitable. Anna brought three, and I'm going to share three as well. And we'll do our question of the week from Joey. A lot of people have been talking about the new Instagram Threads app this last week or so. And Joey said, is it worth it for new business owners to hop on the new Instagram Threads app? So we'll touch on that. Make sure you stay till the end for that. All right. So our juvenile way of picking who goes first, Anna, is rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, I love it.
So I assume you know how to play.
I do, although my kids add a bunch of extra things. So we're sticking with the original rock, paper, scissors.
Just the three, yes.
Okay.
Just the three. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, shoot. Okay, ready?
Okay.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, shoot. What'd you do?
Paper.
What is that? Oh,
Paper.
your paper is vertical for people listening to this. Her paper was vertical. I was like, is that, I don't know, is that a knife? Is that, okay. I did paper as well. So tie goes to the guest. So we'll have
Oh,
you
okay.
go guest, go first on this. So 6 ways to stay ethical and still be wildly profitable. Anna, what do you got? Number one.
Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about is transparency and disclosure. So this means sharing honest, realistic outcomes about our programs and our services, and a full transparent disclosure of results. So in contrast, I just want to give some examples of how this can be unethical or sometimes shows up in unethical ways, are sharing the top results only of the
Mhm.
program. Something like when if a sales page says, clear 6 figures in 6 months with our proven strategy, right? We've all seen this. What is the impression? What is the impact of that message? Is that this is going to happen for everyone, or at least almost everyone. And this often is not the case. And so if those kinds of results are 1% or even 10% of the people going through the program, then first of all, it's questionable whether that is an ethical practice and a way of communicating on our sales page.
Yeah.
And um, the other thing to note here in terms of that transparency and disclosure is that a lot of people don't realize this, but when we make claims like that, like these are the results, or give testimonials, our experiences from clients that have certain results tied to them, it's actually a legal thing, or it's illegal not to have a specific disclaimer that indicates the amount of the percentage of people who can expect these kinds of results, right? And even in I think it's part of the ethical conversation around this transparency and disclosure to ask, what is the overall feel and message and impact of what I'm saying? And does that lead most people to believe X?
Yeah.
And, if that's not true, then we need to communicate in the same level of print, right? Not in the fine print, but in the, right? Not in the tiny words at the bottom, and not like super fast like you hear in those car commercials, but in a way that really communicates what what people can expect. And if the impression that I gave here is only happens when certain parameters exist, then
Yeah.
we need to say that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Love it. All right. 6 ways to stay ethical while being wildly profitable. Number two is this is kind of a filter that I have built in my business. And it's basically to prioritize the happiness of our clients and customers over almost everything else. Now, I'm not somebody who says, oh, the customer is always right, right? If you have any kind of business, whether you worked as an employee or as a business owner, you probably had somebody that was maybe being unreasonable or whatever it might be. But when you level up the customer service to make sure that they're happy, it kind of can eliminate a lot of the things that, like, I mean, just because you're thinking in that way, I want my person to be so happy. Sometimes the filter I'll use is I want them to be so happy that at the end, they can't wait to leave a 5-star review, or they can't wait to tell their friends or family or, people in their business mastermind about. And so that's kind of the way that I look at it as a filter. And years ago, this is a long time ago now, but Amazon. Once upon a time, I ordered a flat panel TV. This is my first flat panel TV ever, and this was back when like a 27-inch TV was like $1,200 or something like that. Which is funny now because you can get, I don't know, the one the size of your house for that. And they had something that wasn't true about it. Like I was comparing it to the listing and something was wrong in the listing. So I sent them a message. I said, hey, it said that had this, it didn't have it. Just wanted to let you know. And I had like an adapter, so it didn't matter what it was. I'm not going to go into the geekiness of it, but they replied and they said, we're so sorry. We'll get that fixed. You can send it to us, send it back to us. We'll pay pay for the shipping and everything like that. Or if you want, you can keep it and we'll send you 10% back as a refund, which was like $120. And it was literally like, oh my God, I wasn't looking for anything. I literally just said, just FYI, you might want to update it. And they took such good care of me. Obviously, they've made far more off of me over the years than that $120. But I just think when you do things like that, not only is it make you memorable and loved by your clients and customers, but more than that, it becomes a filter because if you're putting them first, you are always going to be doing things ethically because you'll feel bad as we, do with ethics, when we don't. So that was that was the story that kind of stuck out with me with that. So prioritize the happiness of your clients and customers almost over almost anything else. And I know it's hard when money is tight. When I first went full time in my business 4 years ago, I quit my job. My wife got laid off 2 weeks later, and the pandemic started 2 months later. So it was kind of like, but I think that really makes a big difference for people.
It
So
does. Yeah. And it reminds me of just the way that I like to, we didn't really define ethics, but the way that I like to see it is like a right balance of power. Because often when we have something that people need, they need something and we have it, there's a power differential there. And so how can we balance that power? And like the example that you gave is how can we make it right? So, in prioritizing the happiness, you're saying, how can we make things right for you?
yeah. All right. 6 ways to stay ethical while being wildly profitable in your business. Anna, number 3, what do you got?
Let's have real scarcity only. So I was trying to put this one into like a positive spin and instead of saying, don't do this, but it's hard to not talk about the how not to do it. But the concept here is like really steering clear of false scarcity or false urgency and sticking to what are the real actual boundaries here. that we need to communicate in order to help people to take action. So we see this a lot, and it's so interesting what has become normalized in terms of false scarcity, like the timers to act now. And if you don't act now, then this is what's going to happen, or you're going to stay stuck, or and these kind of messages. It also happens even when we're doing coaching sales or one-on-one sales and saying like, I've got 2 spots left. Is that actually true? And
Right.
so, I want to invite everyone here into when we're focusing on ethics and being wildly profitable, when we can say no or let go of some of those false scarcity tactics and focus on what are the real boundaries that I need to set in place in order to make sure that I'm served well, that my business is taken care of, that I do need to communicate. And that is being ethical, like saying, I can only hold this many spots and I have 2 spots and it needs to be done by this time so that I can focus on shifting and serving my people. There's nothing wrong with scarcity when it's a real thing that actually exists.
Yeah, and I love that you clarified that because I have, I'm a people pleaser, and sometimes I've erred on the side of not bringing up actual urgency or scarcity. And about 6 months ago, I had somebody who was in a program, and I thought they were going to sign up for my membership, and they even said they would or were going to, and they hadn't. And I reached out just kind of the final day, say, "Hey, did you have any questions about this?" Only because they'd said they were going to, and they said, "Oh, is there a deadline? I didn't know. You didn't have any countdown timers in the emails." I was
I'm
like, "Oh,
used to that. Yeah.
yeah." And so some people are used to that, but what I realized that is just kind of on the other side of this is, another thing that can hurt both sides of the transaction is not being clear in what the offer is. So if there is scarcity, if there is urgency, doesn't mean you have to put a countdown timer every inch, on the page or anything like that. But it is important to communicate our offers. But yeah, the 15-minute timer where you can just refresh the page and it resets the 15-minute timer and things like that are icky, to use my clinical term again.
Yeah.
They're icky.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Especially when we know, and those times where we do have actual deadlines, we can also say, what else can I give so that this doesn't feel like scarcity? So when we have, even if you have 3 timers so that people are very clear on what's going to happen, you still get to say, hey, if this is not the right time for you, we're going to be opening again next quarter. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. All right, 6 ways to stay ethical and be wildly profitable. Number 4, have a specific human filter, that which is what I call it. And so, one of the things that I do in my business, and I kind of did this from day 1 when I was learning more about the psychological principles of urgency and scarcity and, some of these other things, is I think of everything as though it's being used on my mom. She is my specific human filter. And so I think if somebody else did this to my mom, if they used this marketing tactic, how would that make me feel? And if I wouldn't like it, then I won't use it in my own business. And so, my parents are both very smart and, not susceptible to, silly things. But I always just kind of use my mom as the filter because I know if I found out somebody had taken advantage of my mom and I could do something about it, I would be trying to figure out, how to prevent it from happening to other people. So I call that my specific human filter. But sometimes rather than just deciding like, is this right or wrong? If you pick somebody that's important to you and just decide how would I feel if somebody did this to them, then it makes it real easy to have a clearly defined line. And ethics have a lot of gray area in the middle and even with internally. And so this is where, for me, it's very easy to go, okay, which side of the line am I on? Would I hate it if somebody did it to my mom? Then it's out. Would I be okay with it? Do I think it's fine? Then I'm totally fine with it.
I love it, Jerry. And I think that just brings back a lot of some of these things I think get normalized because we aren't looking at the person, because we are not in this one person to one person interaction anymore, with the advent of mass marketing. We're mass marketing and we're mass advertising, and we're not often interacting with each individual person when we still have that innate empathy and that innate connection. And I might not have done this if it were talking, if I were facing humans directly. So you're bringing that element back in, which I think then makes it a little easier to make these choices.
I love that you said that too, because sometimes with all of the automations and things that we can do like that, sometimes we do things in our business without thinking about it because it didn't strike us as wrong in the moment. We copied a template, whatever it was. Somebody did it that we respect, so we didn't even think about, oh, is this right for me? And it goes into an automated email sequence or whatever, and you just forget about it. It's real easy to sort of distance
Yeah.
yourself from it. And I had a specific thing where there was an email that I had sent that came from a template from somebody that I respected. And finally, one of my people in my audience replied to it and said, "This doesn't feel like you." And I was kind of grateful they called me out on it. But then I looked back at the email and I'm like, this doesn't feel like me. And it was just, I needed somebody else to sort of, point it out. And so now, and what I tell my people, because in my social media leads lab program, we have templates. I always, it's like, hey, you have to make this your own. Like, read it out loud in your own voice and see if it feels right. And if it doesn't, then, by all means, make the adaptations that you need to. So, all right, 6 ways to stay ethical while also being wildly profitable. Anna, number 5, what do you got?
Number 5 is to create safer spaces. And the story that you just told made me think of that, because you have created and nurtured a space where somebody feels comfortable coming back to you on an email and saying, this doesn't sound like you, right? Where you're open to feedback. And so that's part of creating safer spaces and what we're doing in our businesses and our marketing, where one of the big factors that comes in here that I want to address is recognizing windows of tolerance for people. When we're thinking about our tolerance for risk taking, so this comes up a lot in business, we're inviting people to do something differently. We're inviting them to take risks to change, which is has a huge impact on our nervous system and our well-being when we decide to do something differently. And we need to be aware of, am I able to support the people that I'm asking to do something differently? And recognize that everybody's window of tolerance is going to be different through through the struggles, through the different actions that they're taking, through trying something new. And really putting some intentional effort into, how can I support people as they make these changes that I'm asking them to take? And is my environment creating a space for failure and for hard emotions? We see this a lot, especially in coaching, where there's a danger to move into this space of what I call toxic positivity, where we just have this kind of constant raw environment, right?
Yes.
You can do it, go. And everybody is, not everybody, but the majority of the communication and the celebration that happens in online spaces is this kind of positive wins, celebrations. I made all this money, we got a new client. And often we're not celebrating the hard parts of it. We're not celebrating the hard growth and the times that we have anger and frustration and sadness around the changes that we've been asked to make. By by our business owners who are asking people to make changes and do things differently.
So how do you recommend somebody incorporate that? Is it about letting people know what parts they might not do well at? Or I mean, how do you set that up?
Yeah. So in our marketing, I think it's important to be clear about the struggles. And, we're not just focusing on the celebrations and the great parts, but that we are being real about, hey, this is hard work. And these emotions might come up, recognizing the points of emotional struggle that might happen, and that we support and recognize those without bringing shame or guilt into that process. And then once we're in those containers, or like here, I'm really kind of approaching this from a coaching standpoint, because that's my space.
Yeah.
But that we are intentionally giving time and attention to those struggles, and we're not kind of emotionally bypassing those and focusing on all the positive things. I think the first part of what we can do differently is to have awareness of it and then start asking questions of, where can I hold an even safer space for the struggle?
Okay. I love that. All right. 6 ways to stay ethical while still being wildly profitable. Number 6, is what I wrote down was have a generous guarantee and openly give refunds. And so when we talk about some of the things that have come up today, urgency, scarcity, and people feeling the pressure to make a purchase because of this or that, and we've probably all made a purchase or invested in something at some point in our lives, whether it was real urgency or scarcity or, false. And so one of the things that I do and have done from the beginning is I've always had very generous guarantees. I'll admit this was hard. I shared, back in the beginning in 2020 when I first went full time into my business. 2 weeks later, my wife got let go. The pandemic started. Like 6 weeks after that. I mean, it was scary. But I just decided that I don't want anybody in my program that is not thrilled to be there. And so I've always set it up. So, for example, I have a course called 29 Days to Endless Free Leads. And I do what I call the Love 3 or It's Free guarantee. It is a 6 module course. And if you don't love it after the first 3 modules, just let me know and I will issue you a full refund. And it's $1,000 course. So it's not nothing. But I just don't want people in there that aren't happy. I think that the long term effect of that, the effect of how they feel about your business, and not to mention what they say to their friends and family and all of that, is far more detrimental. Now, I'm confident in my program and I've gotten confident because I almost never have to issue that refund. But I'm super proud to do that because I think it just makes it so much easier. And I know sometimes it's hard to give money back again when it's tough. The customer is not always right. But if I go back to the number two, the first one I shared, I think that really changes the way that we think about our business. And so, again, if you have a policy, if you have a team, they know about it. Like I have, my main member of my team, she's allowed to just do that. She lets me know, but it's like she's fully empowered to do that. We don't get into a whole, well, should we do it or should we not? And it's just really made a massive difference in the way I feel about my business, the way other people feel about my business. And I think long term leaves plenty of room to be wildly profitable in the end.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference, not only for that person and for their business, but for is just the feeling of the environment in your whole program. Because if you have people in there who really don't want to be there, it affects the energy of the whole.
Yeah, 100%. And it can be toxic very, very quickly. And if you've never been active in an online community, if you've ever worked in an office, you know how one person can completely destroy the culture in an office, and it can be the exact same thing. So, all right, we're going to recap all 6 of these here in just a second. But real quick, our question of the week from Joey, who asked, is it worth it for new business owners to hop on the new Instagram Threads app? From this recording, I think it rolled out about 9 or 10 days ago. It's been called the Twitter killer by the media, but it's basically more of a text-based app from Meta, who created Instagram. And I talked actually in depth to my members this week in Social Media Lead Lab about this, but I want to give a quick answer about it right now. Have you dabbled in it at all, or have you ignored the hype, Anna?
I have ignored it. I'm really super glad to hear what you have to say about it. I have not gone on yet, mostly because I'm afraid of getting sucked in,
Okay.
not having time for it.
Good for you. Yeah.
But
Well, good
I'm
for you.
curious.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you from a marketing standpoint, Meta has done an incredible job. And that's why people are feeling this FOMO and this guilt. And we hear these stories about the people that got in on the early days of TikTok and now they have $1 million business. It's almost like a lottery ticket in that sense. But the way I like to look at this stuff, first of all, yes, social media changes all the time, but 95% of the changes are irrelevant in 6 months. So we can't pivot and jump every time there's something new. It just doesn't make any sense. But with this kind of thing, when there is a new marketing opportunity like Threads, which is what we'll call it, I like to look at it and say, let's say that it cost $10 a month to use. Okay. It wasn't free. It was $10 a month, which is nominal, right? It's next to nothing for something you might invest in for marketing your business. If it's $10 a month and you wouldn't use it, you probably don't need to use it when it's free. And I like that $5 to $10 filter because it very clearly defines what we think is worth our time and not, versus when something's free, we just go, oh, yeah, it's free. I got to check it out. I got to get on there. I got to capitalize. I have been on there, part of my job to do this stuff. I also am a social media geek. So I wanted to get on there and see what was happening. And, yes, there are opportunities there, but if it takes away from stuff you're already doing that's working, there's no reason to be on there. I truly believe you could look at it anytime in the next 6 months and maybe longer and not have, quote, missed the boat on it. So I think we have to let go of these feelings of guilt and worry. Now, if you have time, and you want to do it, right? Like maybe you take public transit, you've got all this time on your phone every day because you're riding a bus or a train, or you're early for appointments, like real estate agents a lot are get to their appointments 10 minutes early and they have time, then by all means do it. Just don't consider it your marketing time. Consider it sort of your leisure time in the same way that you might check out a Netflix show if you have time. So that's kind of the way I look at it is if you wouldn't pay 5 or 10 bucks a month to use it, then you don't need to be jumping over there, right? All right, let's recap our 6 ways to stay ethical while being wildly profitable. Anna, you want to do yours real quick first?
Yeah, we can do 3 and 3.
Yes.
Okay. So transparency and disclosure. Examine what you're doing and make sure that you're being just transparent and disclosing real results. Secondly, focus on real scarcity and try to let go of the false scarcity. And thirdly, create safer spaces.
All right. And then the 3 I gave were 1, go out of your way to prioritize the happiness of your clients and customers, because if you think of things that way, you won't do things that feel unethical to you. Number 2, have a specific human filter. In my business, it's my mom. If I'm going to try something in my business, I think if somebody else did this to my mom, or if my mom was one of my clients or members, how would I feel about it? It's a very defined line, right? Either you're okay with it or you're not. And number 3, have a very generous guarantee and openly give refunds. There's no reason for any of us to have people in the things we offer unless they're happy. They can be reasonable. I'm not saying you have to go like I've heard about some of these like high end department stores like Nordstrom where you can bring back shoes that have fallen apart a year later and they'll give you your money back. I'm not saying you got to do that, but it really makes a big difference to, make sure your people are happy and it helps you ethically stay on the right side, especially for you as a person. All right. So if you found one of these especially helpful and you are going to take action on it, by all means, please let us know. Always love to hear about those. Some really awesome tips were shared today and some really awesome things to think about in your business. Remember, we all do better when we all do better. So take a second right now, think about somebody else that might benefit from this conversation or one of these, and make sure to send it to them or tag them or share in any way that comes easiest for you. Next week on the show, 6 ways to make money from a YouTube channel. Justin Brown from Primal Video is going to be my guest. If you're not familiar, their channel, I think, is over 1.5 million subscribers, and they have actually built $1 million business on YouTube using lots of different ways. And so he and I are going to share 6 ways to make money from a YouTube channel. Anna, where can people connect with you and find out more about you online?
Yes, the traditional website way is go.asaucier.io. What I really prefer is to have conversations. So I'm at Real Anna Saucier on either Instagram or Facebook. Just reach out and say, hey, I watched Sherry's show and I have a question, or this was my favorite tip. I would love to just have a conversation.
And just for clarification, Anna's name is ANNA SAUCIER, right?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. So just want to make sure we get it right. This is the former radio personality of me where you got to make sure that, that everything is being spelled the right way. So if you want any of the links that Anna just mentioned, you could be able to check the show notes at the6ways.com/10. That's 10. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Anna.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Thanks for being part of the 6 Ways podcast with host Jerry Potter. You can find other helpful and share-worthy episodes at the6ways.com. And remember to take action on something you heard today and let us know how it goes.